patiently waiting. I'll introduce everybody we have on stage. John Hawks, who needs no introduction. Don't have to say much. He was obviously acting in the film, but also one of the songwriters, one of the main songwriters that the film was kind of centered around the music, right? And co-writers, as we'll talk about a little bit further down about the improv piece of this film. And then Lena, who was is the lead, and is also a producer and the casting director for the film. Still waiting on Chris. We'll see. Who's it, Sarah? Okay, so we'll start, and when Chris comes, we can loop him in. Lena, the premise of the film for me, and one that I love, is turning pain into art. Can you tell us a little bit about how this film came about and what the motivation was?
Yeah, as we wait for Chris, and I think he's coming.
Yay,
so
Chris!
We should swing. Yeah, that's much better. Saved by the bell.
Yes. Chris Henley is a prolific dancer. He's a dancer, philosopher, and occasionally one of the probably best, I would say, producers in our culture today. So happy to have him on board, on stage. So Lena, tell us.
Chris, as you were coming, I was asked about the process of making this film in terms of facing pain.
Because the whole premise was like you had an experience that was a very painful one, and you transformed that into art, which to me is part, like, actually kind of the strongest art that exists in the world. So I want you to share that with the audience of how that unfolded for you.
Yeah, I think that's number one most interesting thing for me, that I guess that I can observe this crazy funny world that I'm just participating in, and I guess if I have my own hard experience, it's, I guess the only way I can move past it and move through it is to dive into it. And this one just felt interesting enough in a way that I feel more people can relate to it. I mean, being dumped. Yeah, and like having nothing and going to the desert and figuring it out, and felt like something other people might strangely relate to, which is why I thought this time around my own experience can be valuable to bring to the screen.
And you're Polish American. Michał is the director, is Polish. How did two Polish people end up making a film about California?
Yeah, that was so cool. Michał Chmielewski, our director, has never been to America before he landed in LA on like March 8th, 2020, and that's when we began shooting. Other interesting events were happening then in the world, which we tried not to include in the movie much, but I think the presence of the ghosts of COVID are there maybe in the dust.
But I always prepare.
He's the only one
that disclosed the time period.
But we call him the beekeeper.
Oh yeah.
We just,
I just thought it was the desert sun that was hitting you. I wasn't.
Well, I have the hat. I always wear it.
Yeah,
I run a lot in the desert
That makes sense.
and in Africa.
Oh, really?
So the hat, but during COVID, I did use that very same hat when I go into like a health food store. So they go, no, that's not really masking. Well, it's a very fine wave that like blocks the UV rays. It's a special sun hat.
So he gives it away and doesn't. But anyway, I brought Michał. One of the first stops was Chris Hanley's place in Joshua Tree, called The Invisible House, which a lot of people in Europe don't see or don't realize that's in the movie, which I love so much. There's the trivia sometimes at the end of our film, and most people are like, Invisible House, what? But so
It's the quintessential house in Joshua Tree, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, it feeds the.
Well, you all saw it, right?
And that's a good question. Who saw it? See, not everybody. See, this is crazy.
Especially at the gate shot, even it was
So
up.
I can see.
It was there. Leopard skin kind of rocks.
Anyway, just getting back for a second. I met Michał in Poland. I lived in LA for a long time, and then I got dumped, and then I drove around and went to Poland, and then thought I'd like to make a film about something, and met some people, and one of the first of these people was the incredible director of this film, Michał Milewski, and this is his debut, which I think is a very mature and incredibly wonderful debut for a young filmmaker, because Michał is such an observer, and he just really, like, phenomenal human being. I hope we'll talk more about him, but he, I don't know, he just saw you and me and you and everyone we know, and like hoped to work with John Hawkes. I told him maybe I can hook it up. He flew to LA, and then it was pandemic, and we're here now.
You said something about Michał being an observer, and a lot of, I come from documentary filmmaking, and a lot of what I was seeing was very real, right? Like, so there was like this blurred line between fiction and reality. Can you explain to the audience what that line was? Like how you incorporated people from desert people, actually, who, because, you know, most desert people don't really want to be seen. Like their whole thing is like disappearing into the landscape. And it's fascinating for me for a film crew to go out in the middle of COVID and then have this conversation with them. So if you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we really wanted the story to be like a fluid, moving, breathing piece. Just like the Connie Converse, which I'm sure we'll talk a little more about later, so I won't now, but her voice just being in the air as Sarah drives, it's also like an element. I feel like this whole universum is like together with Sarah as she's completely alone from anything else, so she becomes like the focal point of her experience. And within that experience, we didn't want to decide for it too much and sort of maybe allow it to happen. And so one of the ways to do it is the script wrote itself in some ways as we went along. In some scenes we sort of improvised, not really. My character always was Sarah. I lived as Sarah, and every now and then I would have a mission to call my mom or get some information that'll further the plot. And some of these things, like you say, have been hidden camera situations with real people. So there are scenes in this film that we only got the permission from these people later, by their production car chasing them and being like, do you want to be in this film or not? A lot of people said no. Some said yes, and so we do have moments of stolen truth on screen, which some could debate whether it's a fair thing to do, but you know, they were down.
One of my favorite ones was really like, thank you for not shooting me.
That's exactly happened for real. He didn't know that, yeah, that was not written. Also, the fact that he has a t-shirt that says, I love dogs, was also not written.
What was the thread with the dogs? There was like a thread throughout the whole film of dogs showing up. What was that?
Yeah, I'm really curious with gentlemen here that as they watched it the first time, or if you ever felt it or seen it. But to me, if you watch the film again, maybe you see that there's
The first dog.
who watches
I mean,
her.
Little fluffy, cute.
Love that actor.
I mean, that's a star.
Right?
Thank you.
It was like the best part of the film.
Well, I mean, John was the best part, but the dog was, you know, close contender. He was a contender. I don't know if it was a he or she, the dog.
It was an it dog.
Oh, we did. Well, you know, we have those interpreters.
Yeah, dogs are
That
great.
was an accident, though, right? That dog in the window was not really part of the movie.
No, it was. He didn't know the scene. He didn't. I just. He didn't.
Oh, that's all.
We didn't know he was in the
Because he didn't go through the casting process. No, he was just there in the window. But I did have my eye experience with him, and he did follow me down.
That one
We
last
didn't force
look he
him.
did at the end where he stared, and then when she got out of the frame,
He
just
just,
like,
like, switched over.
there's no way that was a,
Right?
you know, that dog was, you know.
Talented.
I just felt it, but that's what I mean. Maybe it sounded so pretentious or whatever what I was saying, but really, it was written by something else. So there were moments that we felt it together. That dog felt something. We see it. It's amazing.
Chris, the philosopher that shows up on the journey, right? She was on a journey to find herself, and you were the philosopher, the sphinx, that person that you find along the way that mysteriously, you know, reveals. And for us, as an audience, you revealed kind of the emotional core of the film. There was one phrase, and I wrote it down because I have to, after long COVID, I have to write everything down. Nobody's ever really together in this life. It's just different degrees of aloneness. I thought that hit really hard.
That was, on the moment, what we felt, and there had been, I don't think we even did 2 takes, I can't remember, but I reviewed the content of the car, I kind of knew the material, but I could feel that what we were talking about, and there was a sense of this, really was a storm, it was windy as well. And just the nature of things, you wonder, like, weather's one of the hardest things to predict. And they have supercomputers, that's what they're primarily used for. I think they're used for other things, but that's the primary use, is predicting the weather. It's always been that way for 30 years. And it's almost the same with individuals. They're not that different or separate from what brings the galaxies and the stars and, amino acids and, life forms. And, eventually you come to this point where, like, how can you self-reflect on this and feel sadness? And but then, what the hell, when you get to John's, like, guitar work there, and all the questions are answered.
That is true.
That is true. John, that's a perfect segue. John, your moments were so tender. Like, the way that you emotionally held Sarah as a character. And also in real life, from what I hear, it was an extension of what was actually happening in real life and how much you supported Lena, and that turned into the character supporting Sarah. And the music being such a big piece of that emotional connection and support. And what was hilarious to me is that it was finding out that you did not want to be a part of it.
I told her, like, to get on to do it.
You came along kicking and screaming.
I told her that, I know, sorry. Kind of.
Well, that's true. I kind of was in a spot in my life where I didn't really feel like working much. Haven't worked in a while. My mother had been ill in 2019, and I took that year off, and she passed away, and then COVID came, and so I just wasn't really in a working mood. And Lena had been speaking about the film to me for months, I guess, before COVID came. And even at that point, I was just not feeling like working. And then, I offered music, kind of would go to where Lena and Miguel were staying, and at a safe distance, because I was pretty COVID observant, I guess. I just would sing songs for them. It was kind of the only chance to play for people. I was living alone, and it was a real gift to get to drive to where they were staying and play a few songs. We did it over several nights, and I figured that was it. Maybe there's something they could use, maybe not. And then I thought I was done, and Lena, sent me stuff from, reports from what they were doing, and Miguel as well. And then maybe a couple weeks into the shoot, they sent me a little piece of what they were working on. And I watched it and just had that sinking feeling that I was fucked and that I needed to be part of this thing. So it was beautiful. And so that's kind of how it happened.
And that whole, the last part, those scenes were improvised, correct?
Which ones?
With John.
No, I told you that the scenes
Oh,
with John were the least.
The least improvised.
Of all, they were really very much close to being written, being structured, and John will talk more about how his experience was, but compared to a lot of scenes in the film that were greater improvised than ours.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the film for the second time. I saw it like against like a web, I think it was something like a white sheet, and it was very dusty looking. I liked it, but I saw little detailed things. And one of the things that I say is I've been making films, and some of them are, you know, at different levels of what I would call like trying to get to a kind of a reality, to like to find a contemporaneous aspect of life that you're solidifying so that an audience can appreciate for years to come. And I think this was one of the most close, and I experienced the desert, especially during this period of COVID, for more than 2 years straight. I stayed out there. I wasn't in my usual home in Venice Beach. I'm back in Venice now, but I'm also in the desert. And I think it was the closest to what I would say is reality, and it's impossible in this movie to tell what was improvised or not improvised. Because I think it's one of the closest films I've ever seen, or been a part of or not been a part of, to what I would define as reality, and I am a philosophy major. I do have a degree in philosophy from a few different colleges. So, and that's something that's really important to me. The script is always something. You see a vision. Often, the director, I don't have time to read, like with Steve Buscemi, Trees Lounge. I didn't even read it. When Steve came to my office, I just told him to tell me every scene. And we sat there for like a couple of hours. They went through every scene, and that's something I do. Because when I read like a philosophy major, like Immanuel Kant or something. Like every sentence like takes hours. Let me take it logical, Tractatus Logico Philosophicus, it's like, that's how I read these things. But if you tell me and I have the vision, and that thing is about as close to the desert life as I can imagine. I mean, Landers Brew. I mean, how many days was I in Landers Brew sitting right at that spot? And that guy, was that even an actor?
No.
What was that guy? I mean, I've never seen him pick up.
Can we just, I'm sorry, everybody, but this was the biggest compliment I got in my life from like a muse of mine, and you just said some good stuff, so I'm just gonna say thanks, Chris. I'm sorry for this moment. That's so nice, because that's crazy that you just said that. Okay, yeah, that guy in the bar, his name's Chris also. And we found him on the street. We had a guy that was supposed to play a bad guy. We needed a scary element for Sarah, so we had an actor, but he chickened because it was COVID, and we were not supposed to be shooting at this moment, so he didn't come. And we had the Landers Brew booked to shoot that day, that bar, Red Bar. And
it doesn't exist anymore, by the way. Recently, it just faded into oblivion, but.
Most places, the motel, Blake's Motel as well. Like,
yeah.
Talking of, so we were staying at this motel and we were shooting that scene when I jumped in the pool, topless and like a child. And there was this guy who was it was really in the middle of nowhere, Joshua Tree, this motel. And this guy just comes around on a BMX motorbike to just like unplug lights and plug his cell phone to charge it. And I was really like, neck tattoos on a BMX, and just like unplugging the lights from the whole motel as I'm like naked jumping in the pool during that scene, and we're really worried who the fuck is that? Maybe, we were just worried. I was scared to shoot the scene. But then we got the call that the guy who was supposed to play the bad guy canceled, and I was like, great. So we approached him and asked him to come in 2 hours to shoot the scene with us. So he went home and changed and put these nice clothes. And everybody from our team were like, we're not gonna pick this guy up. We don't know where he lives. Like, we can't go. So like the director had to go himself. Then our boom person, wouldn't touch him. No one wanted to touch him, but he wouldn't, since we knew that he's going. And then he comes. Anyhow, the director picked him up, and he comes, and he's all dressed up in like nice shirt and smells of like Tom Ford. No, not Tom Ford. Like whatever bad. No, sorry, some bad like thing. Yeah. But really hard, like the entire Landers Brew was just that. And we were like, wait, but what happened to the clothes you were wearing? Like the tank top and like you're dirty, it was good. And he was like, oh no, you know, 'cause he came to play in the movie. And so we had to like put him in the clothes of someone that was there, and then he delivered this incredible performance, and he was acting. He knew exactly what he needs to do, what the scene is about, and he did it better than most actors I know.
I love it when we can cast non-actors and they bring in that dose of reality sometimes and like that edge and that grit. And that scene was like supremely uncomfortable, but in the most beautiful of ways when he was just trying to hit on Sarah. Delicately and with apparently, what were they drinking? They were
Shots of sake.
Sake,
So
and the
hard going down.
desert, which
Doing
seems
that
to be
is
surreal and absurd, but yes, okay, I'm along for that ride. Yeah.
Speaking of these people, I just today watching the film first time on the big screen in a long time. I just wanted to say Ed Matuzzi is the guy who gives the chicken monologue.
Wow.
I mean, he's an actor.
Yeah.
This is acting. This is monologue. He's delivering as an actor, and that is.
And he seemed like a real person
Insane,
too.
yeah.
There's no way I could think he would.
You can't tell the difference.
And same with John. We were just talking about, and most critics talk about the fact that this movie's completely even in terms of acting, and some people don't even know they're filmed, and I think we're even, and it's been so incredible to be around you, and because as Sarah, as I traveled, and I met people who had to interact with Sarah to help me tell this story as a writer of this film as well, So I had to participate in some kind of truth, and it's very different when you meet people that, like children, it's like acting with children, they see right through you. It's just so incredible to have this opportunity. And then when John arrived, I was so afraid that I won't be able to continue in the way that Sarah makes this movie, or I make this movie with Sarah, with other actors and people that I worked with thus far, because we shot in chronological order, and that was close to the end. And then when John appeared, it was
Well, you didn't
just
even
more than
know
the same.
if he would be part of the film, correct? And you had an alternative ending.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
as
Well,
Sarah-
I was the second to last scene and she knew, so I don't know what was going on.
Oh.
But maybe John didn't know.
No, we had alternative ending that even though she found this picture, I mean, you find the picture, and she goes to find him, and looks and doesn't. And then she just gets to this empty house, and we shot that ending, in fact. So, yeah, Sarah never, the whole movie, I really don't know if Sarah doesn't know.
So, yeah, she doesn't know what she's heading towards, and I think that's, to me, one of the most poignant parts is like, in the times of, our darkest times and our hardest times, that the universe gives us gifts, and Reverend Malloy was a gift, and the car that he gave Sarah was a gift, and it comes from the places that you never expect, right? And
That wasn't really John's car.
No, that was not.
Let's-
Sure seemed like it was.
I said Malloy, I said Reverend Malloy, I didn't say John.
A lot of people also think that you really, this character lives in this house for real. Like in Europe when we traveled, the people that didn't know who you were, they were like, oh, that man really lives in this house.
That's cool. I have to say, as far as our scene not being improvised, I think it felt to me like it was improvised a fair amount. Yeah, I guess so, but we had an idea of where to go, but I mean, even while we were shooting, I was asking things like, where are you from? And they're like, no, we can't use that, don't say that. I don't know why that was a sore spot, but, yeah, you lucky I don't like cops, I was just kind of made up on the spot. I mean, it was, I think that I talked to Miguel on the phone, and we just kind of gone through like, what are the events that happen? She arrives and he looks to see if the car's there, cut to them sitting at the table, and they talk a while, and we hit one or two points that we needed to hit, and then, we play the song and how it would end. But it felt to me improvised. I mean, there was never anything written down on the page other than the notes I took for Michal saying what he thought should happen, and as you both thought should happen in the scene. And also, I'm so glad you brought up Ed Matuzzi, and I would also point to Brian McGuire, who is the guy who brings Lena to the desert. These are dear friends of mine. What a cool thing to be in this film with them. They're both, you know, musicians, and Brian makes his own films too. But yeah, it felt it feels very much at home to watch it. I first saw the film in London at Rain Dance. So I've been away from California for months at that time, and was going to be away for months shooting something in Iceland. But slipped over to watch the screening and see the film for the first time, and it just was really moving to see dear friends I've known for 20 years or whatever. It's cool. I love those guys, and they're great.
What was the thing that made you, when you saw the few minutes of edited footage, what was the thing that really was like, okay, I need to be a part of this? What was it?
I think it might have been you stealing the car and driving. It might have been that really kind of long shot, or maybe there was other things kind of put into it, but it just moved me. I watched it a couple of times on my flip phone, and barely make it out, but I had a good idea what was there, and it was really, yeah, I just had to be part of it.
Could we talk a little bit, what we
I have a question. That, all throughout the sound, the background sounds were very detailed, and especially in John's scene, you could hear the little children in the background. Was that added later, or was that real background?
Everything is a tremendous work of like incredible Polish team, which I always like to bring up, and maybe these names won't, you know, that's what I guess IMDb is for. But our amazing sound guy, Marcin, had just done a tremendous job on really creating a psychedelic sound experience with this movie, as well as what we watch, which is why I always say to everyone, like, just please watch it loud, like watch it on the flip phone.
Did he record a lot in the settings?
We
Or?
did a second.
Don't watch the flip phone.
Yeah, but like we flew back to LA and had as you know, we've met you then, and we always say on the interviews that we've had in Europe that we made this movie twice. We shot it visually, and then we again came back with obviously the recordings. We had a boom on set, but we wanted to just relive it and just feel it and breathe it. And we've spent a year working on the sound score to this movie with really like every moment. It's a moment in which he plants like a psychedelic trip seed in you, in the rhythm of the journey that you're taking on. Otherwise, it's kind of a simple picture of a girl driving, but the sounds are.
Well, even when the scene where you don't see the boys and they ask you to take your shirt off and give you the box with the gas, the sound of the doors, the sound outside, it became so much part of the story. I almost would say that the film is a sort of kind of like Desert Sessions musical. There is a music recorded out there. They gave you Pop to this album, Billy Gibbons and Josh Homme, and they use Renja Luna, and there's a long history of feeling the kind of natural setting, and then having that be inspirational for a certain kind of desert session sound. And I felt that this was a movie that visualized that very essence of this sort of Joshua Tree thing, or the Landers thing. I have a place in Landers and in Joshua Tree too, so right, and there's like, it's kind of extraterrestrial. Tegrecon's there, and there's a big rock called Giant Rock that's supposed to have, it's like a vortex where you're supposed to have communications with, you know, alien life forms that are constantly.
There in the 50s and.
Yeah. These 10,000 people would come once a year during, like, you know, summer solstice, and they'd have these sort of a relationship to like alien life form communications, and it was taken serious. You know, Howard Hughes would even attend.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love both those areas.
But you
Desert,
can feel that kind
exactly.
of mysteriousness
And I
in
love
the movie. It
that you
captured
brought
it
up
in the
that
sound.
that scene where young boys ask her to take off or to pull up her top, and it's essentially like, you know.
It's all sound, right?
It's
It's
all-
just you're looking at a
And
glass.
it's so much more interesting that it comes through audio than the visual piece.
And to acting too, I mean, think of like, Spike Jonze's film Her, or something like that. The acting it's tremendous acting, but you don't actually see the face. You see everything but you still feel it. You still feel the performance and the way the sound was done. And John Cena too, especially John Cena, which was the denouement of the culmination of this ultra minimalist, like you're getting deeper and deeper into this reality. You go, what the fuck? I mean, what am I watching? This is like real life. Who wants to watch real life? You know, it's like, and you get to John and it's like, well, okay, maybe there's something to staying alive. You know?
Well, let me just say that I wouldn't even be this filmmaker and wouldn't really have been made this movie if I didn't watch movies that this man produced.
Yes.
And really, I grew up just understanding, believing that I have something to say because of your films, Chris. So the fact that you say this now, it's like, I'm glad someone's
Well, this one I didn't produce at all. It feels like as much one of my films as any.
We have, we're getting a message to wrap up. I wanna ask about Vim, because Vim has been, for me, a guiding light throughout my career. He doesn't know it, but he has it.
Bye.
And, it really defined my understanding of cinema, growing up, especially in Europe. I would love to just a little bit talk to the audience and us about his contribution and the collaboration on this film.
Yeah, I mean, crazy, no? But at the same time, not crazy, because the first thing Vim said to me on Zoom when I met him, to try to persuade him like you know. I didn't have to, just like you say, is when you saw the work, he immediately used the word tribe, which is nuts to hear from someone like Vim Wenders, just because he says that the message that you want to give, the sort of like service to some other force that is just trying to make people wake up, listen, take a breath, think, is the reason why he thinks he's made these films. And so he told me that I told him that I feel that everyone that attempts to touch the road movie genre should run their attempts by him. And he told me that he doesn't own the road movie genre, he owes everything to it, and therefore when he meets one of the tribe, he just needs help. And this was before he even realized with my other collaborators, and I think when, like you said, you saw your friends, and it feels to me that I'm just so honored and lucky to have had such tremendous help of people like you all who just decided to help me drive this car for an hour and a half back to LA, from LA 4 years later today, back to LA. So this feels really special. This made me feel like a bit of a crazy Q&A, because we're just like want to hug and talk about this movie with friends on stage in front of you. But I just want to thank you also, both of you, and quite a few people on the audience too.
And Orion Williams as well. Thanks, Orion.
Orion, of course. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible for me to be back here with you guys. Some really important people to me in my life here, and again on this stage. And we're lucky that it's too small for how I feel about being able to create this movie. And I must say I do love it, because like Chris said, it just feels that it rings true. It rings a moment of truth, and that's so important that we remember to make art that gives it.
Yes, and you brought it back home to the place it was conceived to.
Yeah.
The film is finally kind of back home, and we're able to see it. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for this beautiful screening. It was very important to us and the filmmakers.
Okay, and I just also want to say that I want a massive thanks to Anya Lale and Laura De Castro. They already know, so not only did they put up with this movie would have never happened, and also the screening would have never happened. They just support me all the time, so I can wear pink outfits and look pretty with these hot men around me. So girls, thank you. And also James and Kyle, you know who you are, and you helped out the screening for us. It's nice to have a team. Thanks.